Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second film of our April in Paris collection, Julie and Julia, from 2009, which follows the life story of two women, the great American chef Julia Child and Julie Powell, a young New York writer and blogger. Written and directed by Nora Ephron, the film is based on Child's autobiography, My Life in France, and on Julie's chronicle, Julie and Julia, My Year of Cooking Dangerously. Julia's story focuses on her several years of work developing her great Bible of French recipes for American kitchens, Mastering the Art of French Cooking, and on Julie's one-year endeavor, cooking her way through all 524 recipes in Julia's cookbook, and her daily blog about her experiences. Indeed, this is the first movie to be based on a blog. The film stars Meryl Streep as Julia, Amy Adams as Julie, Stanley Tucci as Paul Child, and Chris Messina as Eric Powell. Their stories are told in parallel segments, contrasting the early years of Child's career in 1940s, 50s Paris with the early years of Julie's, set in the early 2000s in Queens, New York, and depicting their mutual searches for a rewarding occupation to relieve their dissatisfaction with their lives. This movie harkens back to Hollywood in its heyday, since both women realize their dreams and there are happy endings for all. But it's unusual in that it portrays men as a support team for two very strong female characters, and not the other way around, as was usually the case. Streep delivered a charming performance and was much praised by the critics for her spot-on portrayal of Julia Child. She received yet another of her many nominations for the Oscar for Best Actress. For those of us who saw Julia on her PBS show, Streep captured perfectly Julia's looming, hot-shouldered posture and near falsetto tone of voice. Her performance was so iconic that it became the inspiration for Dan Aykroyd's famous, hilarious Saturday Night Live spoof of Child's PBS cooking show, a clip of which is shown in this movie. Plot summary. At the end of World War II, State Department employees Paul and Julia Child are sent to Paris, where Paul will be a cultural attaché at the U.S. Embassy. Julia settles into the activities of a typical embassy wife, lunching with other embassy wives, shopping for clothes in a city where she complains that nothing fits her, and dabbling in a hat-making class. She grows increasingly discontent with these activities until she realizes that what she does well is eat, leading her to taking a course in French cooking at the famous rigorous Le Cordon Bleu. Eventually, she's introduced to Simone Beck and Louisette Berthold, who will become her collaborators. Julie, a retiring aspiring writer, works in a call center, answering phone calls from frustrated New Yorkers, lunching with her infinitely more successful girlfriends, and going home at night to drown her frustrations in cooking. One day, she hits on the idea of cooking all 524 recipes in Julia Child's book in 1 year. Her sweet, kindly husband suggests that she write a blog about her experiences, and thus her project is born. Julie becomes so obsessed with her task that it even affects her marriage, leading to her husband's temporary departure from their household. But happy endings triumph, as Julia succeeds in publishing her cookbook, and Julie succeeds with her blog and book, which are ultimately made into this movie. Nora Ephron was an American journalist, screenwriter, and director, best known for her romantic comedies. Both her parents were well-known playwrights and screenwriters, and true to their theatrical roots, named Nora after Ibsen's heroine in his play, A Doll's House. After high school, she studied at Wellesley College and moved on after graduating in 1962 to a short internship in John F. Kennedy's White House. Determined to be a writer, She applied to Newsweek for a writing job and was told that they did not hire women as writers. As a result, Efron took a job in Newsweek's mailroom, and when she left sometime later, became part of a class action lawsuit against the magazine for alleged sex discrimination, which she won, thereby forcing the magazine to change its hiring practices. Along the way, she became a newspaper reporter and married 3 times, notably the second time to the journalist Carl Bernstein, who together with Bob Woodward broke the Watergate case. While married to Bernstein, she wrote her first screenplay, a redo for his Watergate movie, All the President's Men. And although her screenplay was not used, a producer saw it and ultimately gave her her first job as a Hollywood screenwriter. As her career took off, she wrote and directed many screenplays and received 3 Oscar nominations for Best Writing for Silkwood, When Harry Met Sally, and Sleepless in Seattle, winning a BAFTA for When Harry Met Sally. She died of multiple myeloma in 2012 at age 71. Julie and Julia was her last film. Fun facts about Julie and Julia. Julia Prudhomme, who plays the bridge teacher in the movie, is Julia Child's niece. During the Valentine's Day dinner scene, a guest asks the Childs if they were spies during World War II, and they deny it. But since the modern portion of this movie is set in 2002, and their private papers revealing that they were spies for the OSS, the precursor of the CIA, were not published until 2009. They showed that Julia had served as a top-secret analyst. The filmmakers decided to keep their secret, leaving this conversation as a nod to their exploits. Nora Ephron insisted that the actors eat the food that was presented to them, but also that they depicted how delicious Julia's dishes were. As a result, Meryl Streep gained 15 pounds during the course of the film. Since Julia Child was 6 feet 2 inches tall and Meryl Streep is only 5 feet 6 inches tall, the filmmakers had to resort to many camera tricks. Set adjustments such as extraordinarily low countertops and costume adjustments to preserve the look of Julia's height. For example, Streep wore extremely high heels. The cinematographer, Stephen Goldblatt, used forced perspective camera shots to enhance the illusion of Julia's height. The suitcase, which appears at the beginning of the movie, actually belonged to Paul Child. Both the Paris and Boston train station scenes were shot in the beautifully restored New Jersey Transit Hoboken train station. Stop the Train by Henry Wolfe is included in the soundtrack. Henry Wolfe, a.k.a. Henry Gummer, is Streep's son. During the scenes with the Houghton Mifflin executives, Child and Beck were shown a cookbook titled Real Home Cooking by Della Simmons. This was a fake mock-up created just for the film. Paul Child's station wagon is a 1950 Buick Roadmaster estate wagon. Chris Messina, who plays Eric Powell, suggested playing Psycho Killers by Talking Heads while Julie cooks the lobsters. Although Meryl Streep received her 16th Academy Award nomination for this role, she was on a 12-time losing streak for the Oscar at the time. And finally, Nora Ephron said that Julie had once owned 3 cats, but that she, Nora Ephron, drew the line at just 1. Things to look for: assorted height adjustments to enhance Streep's height, Stop the Train and Psycho Killers, all that gorgeous food, the station wagon, the train station shots, Paris scenes, especially the Cordon Bleu and Shakespeare and Company, Paul Child's suitcase and the fake cookbook, and the Saturday night clip. And is Julie's pendant a New York subway token? See what you think. Finally, don't miss the cat. And in Julia's words, you can never have too much butter. Now sit back, be sure you have something to nibble on, and enjoy Julie and Julia. Remember, there may be a slight delay before the film rolls. Have fun.